Welcome to All in the Game, everyone. My name is Reginald Johnson, and today I have a very distinguished guest, Miss Marjorie Kinard from Livingstone College, class of 1964. We are beneath the maples in thy oaks. Welcome, Miss Kinard.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank
And
you.
before we get started on All of the Game, since we are at Livingstone College, we're going to play the Negro National Anthem. And after that, Miss Kinard is going to do her formal introduction.
Mhm.
So let's start our first quarter. So, Miss Kennard, your introduction, tell us about yourself.
Well, my name is Marjorie Kinard. I'm a graduate of Livingstone College, as you know. I'm a widow, and I have three daughters,
Yes, ma'am.
all of whom graduated from Livingstone College. My husband graduated from there. As a matter of fact, I have a grandson there now who's 18th person in our family to attend Livingstone College. So
18.
I guess 18th. So I guess you would say that I'm rooted and grounded in Livingstone College.
Yes, ma'am. No, that's great. Rooted and grounded beneath the maples and the oaks. So that's
That's
great.
right.
So, Miss Kennard, tell me about your journey. How did you get to Livingstone College?
Well, I'm an AME Zionite, and I attended Trinity AME Zion Church up here in Washington, D.C. And my pastor was Reverend Dr. John Satterwhite.
Okay.
And he had a lot of familiarity with Livingstone. And so he told me, well, you're going to go to Livingstone. After I graduated from Coolidge High School
Yes,
in
ma'am.
Washington, he said, well, where are you going now? I said, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. I've applied at several colleges and I don't know what I'm going to do yet. So he said, well, Livingstone College is a place for you. He talked to my parents, and that's where I went. And
Hmm.
after me, I have a brother who went. He was right after me, and then a sister who came to Livingstone right after. And then we had cousins who came because we were there, and then I met my husband there, and of course, his brothers and cousins. So we just had a lot of people. We married people from Livingstone, so that's how
Hmm.
we got to be a
That's great.
Livingstone family.
So were you the first in your family to go to Livingstone?
I was first in my immediate family to
In the
go to
immediate family.
Livingstone.
Hmm.
Yes, and my husband was the first in his family to
So
go to
y'all
Livingstone.
started it. Y'all started that legacy.
We started that legacy, yes. And the thing about it, John was from Washington, D.C., but I didn't know him. I
Hmm.
didn't know him up here. Of course, he was older than me. He was 6 years older and
Hmm.
lived in a different part of Washington, D.C. So our paths never had a reason for
To cross.
crossing. We didn't go to the same church. Perhaps if we had gone to the same church, we would have known each other. But we met down at Livingstone. As a matter of
That's
fact, he had already graduated from the college and was in the seminary. So
okay.
paths almost didn't cross.
Yeah.
But you don't know, but in my day, Hood Seminary was right there on the campus of Livingstone. So you would pass Hood Building from Gola Hall on the way to Price Building. So it was right there in the middle. So that's how we saw a lot of the seminary men.
So they was really interconnected.
Yes, yes, very much so. Very much so.
So tell me about your experience at Livingstone when you got there, coming from DC, being the first in your family now. Did you have any expectations?
I don't think I had any expectations because actually I hadn't ever been on a college campus. The only time I was familiar with the college was seeing colleges on TV and in movies and all of that. And of course, when I went down, it was a family trip. I'm the oldest of five children.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
my mother and father got us all in my father's car, and we all went down to Livingstone in Salisbury. So when we drove up on the campus, I thought it was so pretty.
Mm,
And I knew I had to go to Gola Hall because that's where the freshman girls lived.
yes,
And
ma'am.
there was some young men out there to help us carry our luggage up to the third floor. And but it was something special about Livingstone. When my family got ready to leave,
Mhm.
I turned around and said bye, and that's it. I
That's it.
never got homesick. I never worried about being there. I never missed my family or anything. It was almost like I was supposed to be there. It
Right.
was just a wonderful feeling. It was a beautiful day and just a wonderful feeling.
Do you remember the exact day when you went down there and in the car? Because that's about what, 7.5 hours from Salisbury?
Yeah, it may have been 8 or more because in those days, uh, there was no 85.
That's right.
It was 95. It was Jeff Davis Highway, and of course, my father started off late at night, and
Yes,
so
ma'am.
he would have to rest, and it was just a drudgery going down. Now you just hop on 95 and take 85, and you're there. So, but I think it took us a little longer, and of course, we couldn't afford to spend the night at a motel or anything like that. I don't even think we were allowed to
That's what
stay
I'm
in a
thinking too. Yeah.
yeah, we couldn't stay at a hotel. So uh, what we did when my father got tired, he just pulled over to the side of the road, took a little nap, and then we went on.
And I don't think people realize those times back then, the Green Book, why most African Americans traveled at night because number one, they couldn't have a place to stay because you was coming down south. And for all the people in your family, that would have been an expensive trip.
That's right. It would have been. But it gave them a chance to see the campus and see where their big sister was going and all of that. So it was a family affair and it was wonderful.
Yeah. So when you got there, was registration like it is when we did it in the 2000s, kind of the same?
Oh my goodness. Registration was just terrible. Of course, the first week we had freshman week.
Uh-huh.
So it was just freshmen there, and we had senior counselors that helped us. So we didn't get the real feel of how it was going to be.
Yes, ma'am.
And they taught us the alma mater. They did little tricky things to us, and we had special programs for the freshmen, and we got to know each other, and we
Yes.
got to have little boyfriends and girlfriends, and just out of high school, everybody was excited. And then we had registration,
Oh yeah.
standing in long lines. My goodness. And we didn't really have those many students at Livingstone at that time, nothing like 1,000 students, but it
Yeah.
was just the idea of standing up for such a long time. But we did it, and we made it, and it was great. It was great.
Yeah, no, yeah, registration. So during freshman week, did the president do like they always do at every black college, tell you to look to your left, look to your right? Somebody's not gonna be here next year.
Yeah, yeah. He didn't do it per se. It was Dr. Samuel Duncan. He didn't do it, but we did have that, but we kind of didn't believe it. We
That's
didn't
good.
believe that, because well, we were young, we didn't know.
Yeah,
Uh, but that turned out to be true
it
because
does.
we had a class, I think there were about 200 of us who came in as freshmen. And my goodness, by even second semester, we had lost a few. And certainly by our sophomore year, a lot of them did not come back. And so that was a very significant truth that was told to us.
It is, and I think you hear it so many times. I got friends who went to South Carolina State, A&T, St. Aug.
Mhm.
My dad went to Shaw, and they tell me the same things, and you don't want to believe it because as a freshman, you got the whole world ahead of you,
That's
but
right.
but circumstances happen. Something may happen at home. You may
That's
get
right.
too far out of hand and fell out of school, and you got to go back
Absolutely.
and.
That's right. All those things happen. And it's not that you want them to happen, but it's beyond your control. And
Mhm.
so, and a lot of those freshman friends that we had, we never forgot them.
Yes,
It's
ma'am.
because sometimes people make a mark on you, and they have that personality, and you feel that you'll never be without them, but then they don't come back anymore. But
Yeah.
then you might see them later on in life, and you assume that they were still there with you,
Hmm.
but they said, well, no, I didn't graduate from Livingstone. I graduated from Smith or DePaul, or then of course integration came in, you see. So some went to the white colleges in their communities or nearby where they lived, because they didn't have to make that long trip. So
Yeah. And
yeah,
Mr. Bernard, I feel this just me, but once a Livingstonian, always Livingstonian. So if you
that,
started off as a freshman, maybe you didn't get a transcript, but if you graduated somewhere, we deserve credit for that because we helped
abs-
get to where you're at. And
that's right.
we may not get it on the books, but I feel that a lot of people, even though they left Livingstone, they took a lot of Livingstone with them wherever they went.
That's right. And they still have that kinship, and they still consider themselves Livingstonians. And a lot of them come to homecoming, and some come to homecoming every year. So we think that they graduated from Livingstone because they're always there. But
Mhm.
then they'll say, no, I didn't finish, or, but they'll never forget. It's something about the maples and the oaks, being under those
It's
maples and
it's
oaks.
a real majestic campus. I didn't really look at it that way when I first got there. I
Uh-huh.
was on a football scholarship, so you just think in the football field. But
That's
then
right.
as I got older, well, not really as I got older, like after my freshman year, I started realizing pulling up on campus how beautiful that campus looks, especially at
That's
night when those
yeah,
lights are coming on it by the library.
that's right.
It's just a great experience.
It is beautiful, just beautiful.
So, Miss Kennard, what major did you choose?
I was an elementary education major with a minor in psychology,
Okay.
and I wanted to be a teacher. I always wanted to be a teacher, and then I wanted to be a principal
Hmm.
after that. But I did go into teaching, but I didn't stay a teacher very long. And I never got to be a principal, but I always wanted to be. That was when I was young. And of course, when you're young, you're not exposed to that much. And so you want to
Yeah,
be what's in your circle, what you see
that's
your
right.
leaders doing, and when you branch out, there are other things that you find that are available for you. And so you kind of go that way. So that's
Yeah,
what happened.
and I think that's true, Miss Kennard, because especially when you were going to school, Winston-Salem State Teachers College, and we were just pigeonholed to do one or two things. You be a teacher, you could be a
That's right.
principal, education or nurses or social work, but
That's
a lot of the other things were not pushed because people were not exposed to them.
That's right. It's as simple as that. Absolutely. Yeah. And then when we get out here in the real world and see what other people are doing, and the more we're exposed to, and of course, the college would have career fairs and
Yes, ma'am.
all of that, and they would bring speakers to the campus who were in other professions, and that caused us to think, my goodness. And they always talked about networking
Yes, ma'am.
and always had alumni coming back talking to us. And we'd look at them and they were well dressed and had on mink coats and nice suits and all of that. And we wanted to be like that. And we just
Hmm.
had conversation. And since they were alumni, we had a special kinship with them
That's
that
right.
made difference. Uh-huh.
You're right,
Yeah.
Miss Kinard. So how was campus like? Like how did y'all dress up? Did y'all dress up on campus? Like I see in those books.
Oh, yeah. The boys wore suits and ties, and the
Hmm.
girls wore um, skirts and blouses and dresses. We wore stockings and usually flat shoes. Now, there were some girls who wore high heel shoes every day to class. We
Hmm.
dressed up. There was no such, we couldn't even wear jeans. As a matter of fact, my senior year, I think they began to let us wear pants in the dorm, but we couldn't wear them outside. So we were maybe the last of those students who dressed on the campus.
So
So that's why you see that.
y'all was dressed to the nines.
Yeah, in the yearbook, what you saw in those yearbooks of the 50s and 60s, that's how we actually dressed on the campus. Now, sometimes the girls would wear socks with their shoes, their loafers or other shoes, but we didn't wear tennis shoes unless we were going to gym.
Hmm.
No, there's no such thing as wearing tennis shoes on the campus. And we dressed up and we looked professional. And that's the way it was back in those days. You always look professional wherever you went. Hmm.
So you saying for 8 o'clock class, I didn't see rollers and bonnets and people with do rags on their hair going to
Oh my goodness, no, indeed. Rollers and bonnets. Well, now, um, when we had breakfast, all of our meals were in the cafeteria, or we call it dining hall,
mm.
inside of Gola Hall.
Oh, okay.
So the girls did not have to go out of the building, no
Oh,
matter where we were. All of the girls were in Gola Hall at that time. We had 2 and 3 to a room. Those rooms were small. We had a bunk bed and then a single bed in each room. In the larger rooms, there may have been 2 double beds, or
yeah.
maybe 2 double beds and a single or something. See, so the freshman girls were on the top floor because I guess they punished us by having to walk all the way up to the third floor.
Oh,
So
yeah.
they were the freshmen. And then on the second floor, you had maybe the juniors, and then the seniors were on the first floor because they had earned the right to be on the first floor. And then we
That's
had
right.
the parlors on the first floor where we received our company.
Oh, the
Our
parlors. Yeah.
our gentlemen callers would come to the dorms. Now the seniors had first dibs because they could really date and have company. But the rest of us, we pretty much had to see our little boyfriends on the campus or in the library or, that kind of thing. But we would go down and have our meals in the dining hall. And then the boys would come in from other parts of the campus, from Dodge Hall and Harris Hall.
Yeah.
Now, what they used to call the zoo. What was that?
Was that Dancy?
Dancy. Dancy was not built, and neither was, what is that other one on the other side of
That
Babcock?
Tucker?
Tucker. Yeah, they were not built at that time. Now, when I became a freshman, Babcock was built.
Mm.
So then we girls moved over into Babcock. So then we had Goler and Babcock for girls.
That's
And
great.
then the fellas had um, Dodge and Harris Hall. Then Dancy was not built when I was a student. That was built later. And of course,
Later.
Tucker was even later than that. So we were a pretty small campus.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
how was Salisbury back in those days?
Salisbury was a quiet, all American city. As a matter of fact, when we got there as freshmen, we all knew that Salisbury was the all American city.
Mm.
And we didn't interact that much with Salisbury, but we did go to town. That's what we called it, going to town to uh, purchase things and to, um, we didn't do a lot of going, say, to McDonald's. I don't even know if there was a McDonald's in Salisbury at that time, but some of our students had jobs
Yes,
off
ma'am.
campus. And so they would go to work in town. Now, we had a certain way that we had to walk when we went to town. We had to walk up Monroe Street to, I don't know, maybe I don't recall the name of the street. Anyway, we had, I don't know whether it was Bank Street or what. Then we had to turn left there,
Hmm.
walk over to Ennis, and make a right and go to Main Street. We couldn't walk right down to Institute Street to Ennis and walk up to Main.
Why
They
not?
had a certain, and we're thinking that because the white people didn't want students walking through their community. Either that, or, and this is another thought, that they felt like there were some juke joints and places
Oh, yeah.
around in that area, Hurrah Street and all back then. And
Mhm.
so they didn't want us to be contaminated, I guess, because they knew that if we found these little places, they would have trouble with us because we'd be wanting to go and dance and eat
Yes,
and
ma'am.
all of that at these places. So I think that was one of the reasons why they had us to follow a certain path in order to get to town. I think it was Fisher Street. I think we had to walk up Monroe to Fisher, and Fisher Street had those big
Houses.
houses that,
Yeah.
yeah, look sort of palatial kinds of houses. And we walked down there. And so they wanted to paint Salisbury in the best light for
Okay,
us.
so they took y'all. Yeah, I see. Because on Fisher got those nice big Victorian, some of them Victorian
That's right.
houses.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And we had to go that way. As a matter of fact, our senior counselors took us to town during that first freshman week to make sure we knew how to go. And we were not supposed to go by ourselves. We always had to go with somebody. And many of us after that never really walked way up there. Maybe we'd walk up for something special if we
Yeah.
need shoes or something like that. But now kids can just they go to the malls, they get
Yes,
in
ma'am.
their cars. Oh, there was no such thing as having a car.
Right.
And you never got in a car unless you had your mother's permission. And
Really? That's how it went down?
you had to have a written letter from your mother saying that you could get in the car with a boy or a pastor or anybody. If you were going to a church or something and you needed to get in the car, then you had to have your mother's permission there in the office uh, in Gola Hall with the Dean of Women.
Mm. So you 18 and had to get permission to, everyone, women had to get permission to ride in the car with a male.
Oh, sure, because we were kids just
Yeah,
leaving home,
that
you
makes
know,
sense.
yeah. And they wanted to protect us,
Yeah.
and they did a good job of protecting us.
Yeah.
And they wanted to keep our virginity intact and all
That's
of
right.
that. I mean, they were very concerned. They didn't want us getting pregnant and going home, and parents would, well, what happened? What that and get sued or something, something like that. They took care of us very well. Now that kind of continued pretty much throughout my brother and sister, because my sister finished in 1972. So they were still kind of strict about those things then. Now, I remember when my eldest daughter was at Livingstone. I don't know. I think I gave permission to go here and there, but then they got lax.
Oh,
And the
yeah.
next thing I know, Mom, I'm in Charlotte. Mom, I'm here. Mom, what? How can you be there? I didn't give you permission. I didn't write a letter. Well, we don't need that now. And I'd like to say too, every time we wanted to go somewhere, say like to the library,
Yes,
we
ma'am.
had to sign out to go to the library and sign back in if we wanted to go in the evening. We couldn't just go because we had to be in at dusk, not dark,
But
dusk.
so dusk, tell the people what dusk is. I don't think, is that before the street light come on, Miss Kenora?
Dusk is before it gets dark.
Yeah,
Before it gets dark, the sun goes down.
yeah,
It's not dark. You can see light outside.
yeah.
We had to be in at dusk.
Mm,
Now, if we belong to organizations like Julia B. Duncan Players or Future Teachers of America, all kinds of the concert choir and whatever, if we had to go to a rehearsal or any place like that, we had to sign out at the desk, go to wherever we had to go, the library, our meeting, our whatever. Then we would have to come back to the dorm and sign back in and then go on to our rooms. Now you might want to say, well, why'd you all have to sign out and sign in?
yes, ma'am.
Well, for our safety,
That's
so that
right.
if somebody came looking for us and they would know, oh, she's not in her room. She's over there with the choir. They're rehearsing, oh,
Yeah.
she's at the library. They would know where we were at night.
Yeah,
Now,
that's accountability.
it's accountability for young people. And that's what we need, accountability for young people to find out your child is in Charlotte or something. Now, when I was the dean of student affairs, um, there were, of course, the rules were different then.
Yes,
Kids
ma'am.
could go wherever they want. I had parents coming to the campus looking for kids, and those kids would be gone somewhere the whole weekend. And
Mm-mm.
I didn't know where they were. So what could I tell the parents? Nothing. And
Yeah,
it makes you look kind of silly,
it
really,
does.
not to know where students are. But the times had changed.
Yeah,
People wanted their rights. And it was not my business. It was not the personnel business to know where somebody 20 years old has gone.
yeah,
And that person can go for the weekend without permission.
yes,
But
ma'am.
it kind of leaves you in a kind of precarious situation, especially when the parents don't even know where their kids are.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it puts you kind of at a disadvantage.
It
Cause
does put you at a disadvantage, but it's the way it is now.
yes, ma'am.
That's the way it is now. Uh-huh.
Well, great first quarter, Miss Kennard. Next quarter, we're going to talk about how you met your husband.
Oh yeah, okay. That'll be good. That'll be good.
So let's get that ready for our second quarter. So let's talk about when you met your husband, how you met him, what perfume you had on, how was your hair? Oh, because I know you know it. Yeah, I know you remember.
Well, when we were at Livingstone, most of the girls had a lot of boyfriends. We didn't have just one boyfriend and
Really?
that kind of thing. Of course, the times have changed so much. Now, I just want to say this real quick. Now, when a girl has a boyfriend or boyfriend has a girlfriend, they act like they own each other.
They're not even married, are they?
They're not married, they're not anything, but they act like they own each other. But back then, we had friends that were boys, and we
Yes.
talked and all of that. But in my situation, the way I met my husband was that I had told you that he was in Hood Seminary. So those guys were older than we were.
Yes, ma'am.
However, I guess, well, let's say this. I was going with a young man who had a sister. My husband was going with his sister.
Hmm.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm going with the brother, and my husband is going with the sister. So I guess we would have been related anyway. If I had married the brother, he had married the sister, we would have been in-laws.
It would have still worked,
Okay.
right?
So, huh?
I said it would have probably worked eventually.
Eventually,
Yeah.
we were destined to be friends in some kind of way. All right. So I broke up with my boyfriend. He broke up with his girlfriend. And I didn't pay that much attention to him, because we have options. We have
Yeah.
options. But he was a very nice guy. And see, this is where my pastor came in. My pastor said, I know a nice young man down there that I think would make you a nice husband. I said, well, who is that? His name is John Kinard. I said, oh, yeah, I know him. Well, he would make a nice husband for you. Oh, okay. Now you told me what college I got to go to. Now you're telling me what man I got to marry. What's up with this? So I had seen him around the campus. And as I said, I went with the brother of his girlfriend and all of that. So we sort of knew each other. But we never talked in terms of going together or, we were just
Mhm.
friends. So one day, I think it may have been my junior year, I was taking some freshmen to Moore's Chapel on a Sunday, and he was walking with some young men because he was the dorm director in Dodge Hall. So he
Okay.
was taking some freshmen in. So my girls and I, we were walking in the front, they were walking behind us, and we started just a little conversation, a little conversation. So then we went to church. Then after church, we had our little groups and we were walking back up Monroe Street. So he said, what you doing after this? I said, well, I'm not doing anything particular, just going to the dorm. He said, well, let's go over and get something to eat. Now, I don't know how it was when you were at Livingstone, but we have dinner and then they give you a lunch bag. Did they do that for you all?
Oh no, we
They give
starved.
you a bag, huh?
We starved. We got dinner, but that's it. So we
Well,
didn't
on
get the back then.
Sundays. Well, on
Oh
Sundays you got a dinner and then they give you something to eat later on.
no, for on Sundays we ate early in the morning. Like we had brunch and then we had a dinner, but we never had lunch on Sundays.
Oh yeah, well this wasn't a lunch. This was just something in a bag to
A
tide
bag.
us over the night, you
Mhm.
know. And so we went and got that. So then I went on up to the dorm. He said, well, where are you gonna go after this? And I said to myself, why does he keep asking me these questions? He said, well, do you want to go down to the Dairy Queen and get what are those things that you get from the Dairy Queen? A blizzard, a blizzard. And
Yeah.
I said, well, I've never been to the Dairy Queen. Where is it? So he told me where the Dairy Queen was. And so we walked down to the Dairy Queen. He brought me a blizzard. We walked back up to the campus, eating our Dairy Queen, just talking. And he said, well, do you need to go in the dorm right now? I said, well, no. He said, well, let's just sit out here on the campus. So we sat out on the campus, and that started the spark. That
So
was it. That's how I met him. And that's how one thing led to another. And we got engaged on my graduation day. And
mhm.
then we got married a few months after that.
Mm. So you got
Uh,
married a few months after that. So Dairy Queen. So your first date was a blizzard.
First date was, well, I guess you could say our first date, yeah, was a blizzard. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Going to church, that wasn't a date because we just happened to be going in the same
the
direction
same
at
direction.
the same time. But I think that's why I remember Moore's Chapel,
Yeah.
because that's where I saw him in a different light, walking with his boys and all.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. And he probably saw you in a different light too when you were the
Could
same
be.
thing.
Plus, he was walking behind me, and he had to
Oh,
see all of my finery
that's
because
right.
I
He
was
was
getting
checking
in
you
a
out.
little. I was walking in a certain way so he could really see.
That's what I'm talking about, Miss Kinard. Yeah,
I know how to get him, honey. I
that's
know how
right.
to hold them and how to fold them.
You hooked them, didn't you?
Oh,
So,
sure.
ladies, y'all need to listen to this. Carry
That's
yourself
right.
with dignity, carry yourself in an upstanding way, and also doing something like you did, Miss Kennard, which is walking with other people, helping them out, taking them to church. So,
That's right. And that's what we did.
because you
That's
were
what we
serving.
did back in those days. That's right. That's what we did back in those days. And he was the dorm director for my class when we came in. So a lot of my classmates knew him, you know,
That's,
and so it made for a very nice situation.
oh no, that's real
Mhm.
good. So Miss Kennard, tell me, after you graduated and y'all got married, where did y'all live in Salisbury still?
Oh no, we went back home to Washington. Now, let me say this. John went on Crossroads Africa. That was a big thing when we were at Livingstone. And he got a job with Crossroads Africa, where he was in charge of all of the Crossroads Africa projects in East Africa,
Okay.
all down the side of East Africa. So he was traveling a lot in Africa.
Oh,
And then, you know, he's always been going back and forth with his jobs to Africa. And that was a wonderful experience for him. But it started right on the campus of Livingstone College when
mhm.
he went during the summer. And then it became a full-time job.
Yeah, full-time job. Oh no, that's so after you moved back to DC, were you and he was working, were you working also?
Yes, I was teaching. I
Okay,
did teach. Yeah, I taught in the DC public school system.
okay, good. How'd you like doing that?
I liked it. I liked it pretty much, but it was kind of taxing, you know. With I guess they didn't prepare us for all of the homework we would have and all of the planning we would have, and the fact that you didn't have a really good weekend because you were preparing for the next week. But there was a mission, and it was a good feeling when children understood and they learned. So uh, it was very satisfying.
No, that's good. Yeah. So you were was it K through six? Is that's elementary education?
Yeah, K through
K through
six.
six.
K through six. Yes.
So when did the kids come in?
Well, we had been married about 5 or 6 years when I had my first child. Well, you know, we didn't want children right away. We wanted to travel and do some things, which we did. We did a lot of traveling and all of that. So then my first daughter, Sarah, came when I was 27.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
then Joy came when I was 35, I think. And then Hope came when I was 37, I think, like that. So,
Mhm.
uh, you know, I had a lot of time. And so I can honestly say that all of my children I wanted. It wasn't like, oh, here I'm pregnant again. Oh, I don't want this child. You know, it was a very good kind of situation for
Man.
us.
And your husband, he was very distinguished, wasn't he? What did he do?
Well, he did a whole lot of things internationally, and then he worked with the Smithsonian Institution,
Hmm.
developing a museum in what's the part of Anacostia, the part of Washington where we live, the Anacostia Neighborhood Museum. And he ran that for, my goodness, from 1967 until he died in 1989. And that was very fulfilling. So that made him the first African American director of a Smithsonian museum. And of course, the Smithsonian Institution is all over the world, literally. So, and he used to travel all over the world, uh, interesting communities around the world in setting up museums and how to do it and speaking at conferences and all of that. So he had a very satisfying career.
No, yeah, the first African American. That's big. And
Mhm.
yeah, so and a Livingstone grad.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
So
Mr. Mott, I got a question. Is there anything Livingstone grads can't do?
there's nothing Livingstone grads can't do. Absolutely nothing. And the thing about us is that we don't mind networking with our alumni
Hmm.
and giving back. And that's why we have our alumni directory. So you should be able to pick up that directory and call any alumni all over the country. and talk to them about anything. And
Yeah.
that's why we have them to come to the campus and talk to students. There's nothing a Livingstonian can't do.
Oh, and that's great news. Well, thanks, Ms. Kinard. This has been a great second quarter. We're going to go to halftime now. And there's only one song we play at halftime, and that's In the Stone. So I'll play that after I hit the buzzer.
All right.
Thank you, man. So let's start our third quarter. So, Ms. Kinard, how did you get back to Livingstone working there?
Well, it was very interesting. You know, we always go to homecoming.
Yes, ma'am.
And ever since my husband and I graduated, we would always go to homecoming. When we had our children, we went to homecoming. All right. In this particular homecoming, Dot Colson was the director of alumni affairs.
Okay.
And he said to me, Margie, I'm getting ready to go to A&T to work on my master's, and they're going to be looking for an alumni director. You think you're interested? I said, girl, no, I'm not interested in that. I said, I got a good job in DC. I'm not interested in coming down here.
Yes, ma'am.
And she said, well, why don't you give it some thought? Why don't you give it some thought? And so I told my kids about it. And I told some of my classmates about it. My classmates said, yeah, come on down. Come on down. We're going to have fun. It's going to be great with you down here. So I told my children and they said, let's go, mama, let's go. Because that happened a year after my husband died.
Okay, yeah.
My husband died in 89, and we went down to that homecoming. And they said, that's when that opportunity came up. And so I said, well, I don't know what the competition would be, but let me just throw my hat in the ring. Yeah. So I said, okay, Dot, I said, I'm interested. What do I have to do? So she told me how to apply and that kind of thing. Still not thinking that I would get it.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's how I got it. I had to go down for an interview. I went on a train down for an interview and sat in this room with all these people asking me questions and all of that. And I had to prove myself, I guess.
Yes, ma'am.
I think I wowed them. So I was hired as Director of Alumni Affairs and Community Relations.
So what did that job entail of?
Well, I had to relate to all of our alumni, get them interested in the college. Fundraising was a big component of it.
That's right.
And I developed, I guess you would say, an alumni think tank of alumni corporate people from all over the country. I think that was one thing I really enjoyed. And they would come to the campus once a quarter and we would talk about ways that they could help the college.
Yes, ma'am.
And I don't know if they continue that or not, but it was very significant. And because we have a lot of people in corporate America all over the country. And we had physicians and just all kinds of our alumni. And they would pay their own ways and come. And then I had to go out into the community and talk about Livingstone and go to meetings. And then I had to interact with the AME Zion Church and try to recruit students. So it was more than just being there in the brick and mortar. I had to be out and about. Mm-hmm.
You had to be one of the faces of Livingstone.
I had to be a face. That's right. I had to be a face. And then, of course, after that, I moved into the admissions office, director of admissions. then director of enrollment management, and then on to interim dean of student affairs. So that was my
I'm
little.
looking at you kind of funny, Miss Kinard. You can see because you only got one head, but you was wearing a lot of hats.
I was wearing a lot of hats. That's right.
Yeah, I'm like that is a lot.
Yeah,
But
yeah. So I stayed there a good while. I stayed
yes,
there a
ma'am.
good while. Mhm.
Which job did you like the best?
Which one did I like the best? I've never had that question posed to me. Um, I think I may have liked the student affairs job the most.
Hmm.
I think, but I don't know. Each one was carried its own interest and
That's right.
something I loved. Each one had something that I loved about it. Now I love working with alumni.
Yes.
That's why I know so many alumni in the
Yeah.
various classes. I loved working at admitting, being in admissions, because a lot of the students I admitted, they still remember me,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
they remember getting a letter with my name on it.
Oh
See,
yeah.
so I crossed those generations. Then I enjoyed the enrollment management, working with the recruiters that had to go out, and then I enjoyed working in student affairs and dealing with the life of the students and what they had to do.
Oh yeah.
So one thing kind of led to another, and I think the way it happened for the best for me. So it worked out fine because I
Oh,
kind of knew the structure of the college, I knew the mission of the college, so it was easy for me to articulate where we were going and what we had to do as far as what students were concerned.
yeah. You pretty much were cross trained in all those roles because I guess
That's
one
right.
role built upon another one.
That's right.
As you were talking, I said, you know what? That's you pretty much did the whole supply chain of Livingstone College, getting them into
Exactly.
the intake. Then when they get there, making sure they're taken care of, and then you're doing alumni. So after they leave, you're making sure that they're good also. So you pretty
That's
much did
right.
all of it.
I did
So
all of it. That's
yeah,
right.
that's
Yeah.
that's remarkable, Miss Kennard. I never, and there are a lot of people in colleges, they're just in one role, so they just focus on one thing, which is
That's
not
right.
good because they don't understand how the inner workings of everything else works. They don't
Hmm.
know for the school, a lot of schools make money, especially HBCUs. We need students in those seats.
That's right.
And
That's
then
right.
after you get out of those seats, we need you to give money also.
That's
But in the
right.
middle, we got to make that experience one they'll never forget. So they'll want to
Hmm.
give back. So
That's
making sure
right.
they belong when they're there.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. So I had a very interesting career down there.
Yes, ma'am. No, that sounds like a great career, Miss Kennard. Did you
Yes.
and and when you left Livingstone, how was that after you retired?
Well, after I retired, now let's see. When I left Livingstone, I went to Barber Scotia for a while,
Oh, I didn't know
which
that.
was a very unique experience. I loved being down there. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was director of public relations
Okay.
down there, and I loved being down there. And when I left there, then I came on home, and I've been here ever since. And
Yeah.
I enjoy retirement. I do. I really enjoy retirement. Now, when I did come home, there was a need, and I went into childcare. I
Okay.
directed a childcare center for several years. And, it really took me full circle because I worked, I have worked with infants all the way, all the ages up through college, and then again with preschool children. So when I started working with these preschool children, I had benefit of experience working with college students, so I knew what they needed and what I wanted them to have.
Mhm.
And it's possible to start off in those preschool years to prepare children to be the very best college students. And I wish more people had had the experiences I had so that they would know the value of certain things and why things are done a certain way along the educational chain and process to
Yes, ma'am.
prepare them for college and for the real life, so to speak.
No, as you're talking, I'm seeing cradle to the grave almost. We don't want our
That's it.
alumni to pass away, but you pretty much went from cradle all the way to the
Cradle
end.
to the grave. That's true. That is so true. Absolutely.
No, that's great, Miss Kennard. That's a very great story, a great career. Good third quarter.
Mhm.
Next, we're going to talk about why should we give back to our school.
All right. Good.
So let's start the first quarter, and we'll talk about why should somebody give back anywhere, not just a college, but church, giving their time, volunteering. Why is that important, Miss Kennard?
Well, if God gives to you, you need to give back.
Say it again, Miss Kennard. I
If
don't think too
God
many of
gives
us
to
heard.
you, you need to give back, no matter where you are,
Yes, ma'am.
whether it's uh, in education, whether it's in everyday life, whether it's in the family. If God makes it possible for you to cross over the mountain, you have to bring somebody else across the mountain. It's as simple as that. One hand feeds the other. And
Yeah.
that's what giving back is all about.
And I would agree, Miss Kennard, because I'm looking at you again. I already mentioned you wore many hats at the school. Now I'm looking at your shoulders, and those the same shoulders that my class and people came after me have stood on. So they don't look broad in person, but they're very broad spiritually and in the mental aspect. So I want to thank you
Thank
for allowing us to stand on your shoulders, because we wouldn't be where we are right now if we didn't stand on the shoulders of giants. And
yes,
people have to realize that if you didn't go through what you went through and said, you know what, I want to make it easier for the next class to get to it so they'll be better, so they can give back. And what happens a lot is people think, well, I had it hard at Livingstone, so those kids can do the same thing I did. But yeah, we went through stuff like that. But why would you want someone else to go through the same thing we went through? The whole
that's right.
point of living is to make it better for the people who come after you. Because
That's right.
everybody doesn't have the same fortitude and mental tenacity to overcome some of these things we had to go through.
Absolutely. You're right about that. You're right about that. And we always, because see, we know the shortcomings.
Yes, ma'am.
We've been there. We know the shortcomings. How can you go back every year
Mm,
and see a lack in a certain way and not try to do something about it?
that's right, Miss Kennard.
How can you go and see a knob off or something that needs to be painted or a chair that has a loose leg
Yes,
and
ma'am.
not try to do something about it? And
Mhm.
that's what happens sometimes. People walk right by something and don't even see it.
Yeah, yeah. Or they say, well, somebody, and it's in the way you said that, because Livingstone is my home. I know it's your home also. It's like going to your parents' house and you see stuff in disarray, but you complain about it to the outside world. Like, man, my mom's house is so jacked up, this, that, and other. Instead of picking up a screwdriver, picking up a paintbrush and paint and
Absolutely.
say, okay, mom, what else do you need?
That's right. Exactly. Exactly. And that's what it's all about, giving back. And I
Hmm.
just wish more. I just can't figure out why more people don't give back
Yes, ma'am.
and they have resources. And you don't have to have a lot of money to do it.
No, I
It's
don't
just
think
a
you do.
matter, yeah, it's a matter of getting together. I know when I was in the alumni office, we would organize alumni who knew how to paint, who
Yes,
did
ma'am.
construction work for a living, and they would come to the campus and they would paint and they would enjoy doing that kind of thing. And I don't know what's wrong with people, why they can't figure out what needs to be done and go on and do it.
That's right. Yeah. Because, and just do it. Don't even ask about it, and don't try to get the credit for it and say, we did this and we did that, and the school owes me.
That's
Livingstone
right.
doesn't owe me anything. I owe Livingstone, but I
Yeah.
think a lot of people do think the school owes them, and
Yeah, they
they get
do have that
because of
attitude.
that. Yeah,
Some do have that attitude. And then sometimes if one thing went wrong for them, they
one thing.
blame the school the rest of their life for it.
So
And
yeah, so
mm,
that happens a lot, doesn't it?
that happens a lot. It does. I guess it's always been that way. You
Mhm.
know, we have a complaining spirit. Some of us have a complaining spirit and we just complain. I remember that time uh Dr. So and so gave me a F. No, I ain't giving that school no money because I remember something. Well, that was one professor. Why
That's
are
right.
you holding that against the entire college
That's
for
right.
that one thing?
That
And if
one.
you had studied harder or done some other things, maybe you wouldn't have gotten that F, you
That's
know.
right.
So it's difficult.
Yeah, and if you showed yourself a student, I mean, if you need help, those professors was willing and able to help anyone who walked in their class because they didn't want to fail you. If you failed at
That's right.
Livingstone, you failed yourself.
Yes, that's right. And sometimes when you fail, of course, there's a reason. So take it over and you're stronger in it the next time.
Yeah.
So that's the way it is, I guess. That's the
So,
way it
so
is.
you're right, Miss Kennard, because yeah, we got because if we don't give to home, who's gonna do it?
Who's
Nobody
going to
else
do it?
is.
Nobody else is. You're absolutely right. Nobody else is. And so I think we need to think of ways that we can be helpful. Now, if classes work together, can you imagine if every class got together with all their members, what they could do? And it doesn't always have to be at homecoming. Sometimes people think, well, we get together at homecoming, that's it. Well, you need to be interacting with the college through the years,
That's
you
right.
know, and your class can be doing a lot of things. You can adopt something, adopt a floor, adopt a room,
Mm-hmm.
and provide for that. Adopt something in the music department.
That's
Take
right.
care of the organ or piano, making sure that every year when the students come to use that piano, that it has been tuned up. There's
That's right.
so many small things that can be done to make something big out of it.
That's right.
And I just wish more students, former students, and alumni would try to think of ways that they could be helpful to the college to give back,
No,
help
you're right,
students
Miss
find
Kennard.
jobs,
Mm-hmm.
help them find internships, and that kind of thing. So,
No, yeah, you're right. Because it's just like on streets in this area, adopt the highway. But like you say, you can
yeah,
adopt the floor. You can,
that's right.
you know, the class of let's say 64. You can not just putting a sign there. The sign looks good, the aesthetics looks good, but you don't have to interact with a sign every day. But you do have to interact in that dorm when that door is a little crickly and
That's
squeaky kind
right.
of funny. So
That's
different
right.
things like that to make the student experience better for these kids.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Adopt a door. If something is wrong with that door, take
Mhm.
it down and have a new door put up. Of course, you'd have to talk with the people at the college, but there's so many things. If alumni would only open their eyes
Yes, ma'am.
and just walk around the campus and look to see, because some things are kind of hidden and you
Yes,
can't
ma'am.
have to find them. Um, for an example, um, furniture in the lounges,
Yes,
in the dorms, and new sofas. You don't expect a sofa or a chair to last for 10 years and you have
ma'am. No,
students sitting in them every day. So some things might need to be replaced every year.
that's
Wouldn't that
right.
be great? So um, it's up to us to help make things work.
No,
It's up
you're
to
right. You're right, Miss.
Mhm.
Just having that think tank, like you mentioned, and just seeing with your eyes and your heart. And when you walk on the campus, look around, and when you see something out of place, hey, talk to someone. This is your home, just like it's our home, and say, hey, who's responsible for this part? How can we get this fixed? How can we get
That's
this
right.
handled? Because we have
Exactly.
to take ownership also of the college. We can't always
That's right.
expect it to come top down from the president and the administration and the bishop.
That's right.
We own
Mhm.
it just like they own it.
That's right. That's right. It's up to us. And then those of us who work various places when opportunities come up for and you know that there's a funding source for something, recommend our college. Just call the college and let them know that this grant is, we can apply for this grant or that grant. And that helps in the long run because we've gotten several sizable grants because of alumni and others. And some people are right there, but they don't think about the college. I guess they said, well, now, well, I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, we
Never
you
thought
do.
about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right, Mr. Nora. It is something you're doing now. And tell me
Mhm.
about that initiative that you got going on.
Well, that's just a little private something that I decided to do. And I asked my pastor and the president of the DC area alumni because I knew that the UNCF office would have a deficit for its Share Your Love event that they have for UNCF every year. And so I just sent some letters out to my church members, and we sent letters out to our alumni chapter members, and one thing led to another. So I sent one batch of money over $7,000 week before last. I'm going to send another probably 1,500 next week. And that's just, it just goes to show that what a person can do when they want to do it.
That's right.
I just
You want
wish
to do it.
more people would want to do it, and you'd be surprised at how folk will join in if you organize it and get it going. It's just a matter of organizing it and getting it going.
That's right. And you don't want to miss this train. When this train, you never want to be at the train station when the train is already gone. You got to wait
That,
another day or another year to get back on it. So
that's right.
how can people give, Miss Kennard?
Well, to give to the college, you mean? How can they
Yeah,
give?
and to give for the initiative that you're doing right now.
Oh, this initiative. Well, all they have to do is cash at me or send a check to my house or whatever they want to do. They could send it directly to the college if they choose to and just say Kinard Project or however they want to do it. They can come into my messenger. I will give them my cash app.
Mm.
I will give them my address and they can be a part of what we're trying to do. And my little campaign just has about 5 more days
Five more
and
days.
over. Yes, because we didn't want it to be long and drawn out because this little money we've gathered in about 6 weeks.
Hmm.
And so if we can do it, others can do it.
That's right.
And of course, though, the college itself has so many opportunities to give. People
Yeah.
can have money, uh, sign one of those forms to have money taken out of their paychecks
Yeah.
every week, or every 2 weeks, or once a month. They can do that. They can have an insurance policy
Hmm.
drawn up to give to the college in addition to other things they're doing. They can just give a scholarship
Yeah.
uh, to help the college. As a matter of fact, our chapter, the DC chapter, they have a scholarship in honor of my husband
Oh yeah.
and other alumnus, yes. And so you can give scholarship money to in honor of somebody or just an honorarium in honor of your grandmother or your
Yeah.
mother or your father. There's so many opportunities to give money back to the college.
That's
And
good.
of course, they have all kinds of fundraising in the alumni office and the UNCF office. There's so many ways that, and I always tell people to, you have an account in the alumni office or the gift records office. So whatever money you give goes to your account. So if you graduated 10 years ago and you've just given $25 to the college, that's all that's in your account. But if
Hmm.
you graduated 10 years ago, you ought to at least have 1,000 or more in your account if you have been giving. You
Yeah.
see, so the consistency of giving is what is important, because it's not how much you give, is that you're giving it in a consistent way. You can give $25 a year, that adds up.
Yeah.
But I would hope that somebody would give maybe $25 a month,
Yeah. No, that's, yeah,
you know,
you're right.
have it just taken out of your whatever. But,
Yeah.
I realize that times are hard for people. Everybody can't do it. But there are a lot of alumni who can do it, because there are some who are not married, they don't have any kids. I would expect people with kids and families, they might not be able to do it as much as those with no kids.
Yes,
Uh,
ma'am.
they have that fluid income. So rather than upgrading with a new car, why don't you give a couple of $1,000s to
That's
Livingstone?
right. Hmm.
Those kinds of ways make a difference to
They
the
do.
car. Hmm.
They do, Miss Kinard. Miss Kinard, I want to thank you for sitting down, talking to me on All in the Game. This has been very informative of what you've been doing, your legacy that you continue to leave behind, and you're giving and you're showing love through your giving, because you can give, but give is a four-letter word and love is a four-letter word. But
That's right.
they work together. You can't
Yes,
give
they do.
anyone something. You gotta love someone when you give them something.
That's
Unless you give
right.
them a hard time, then you don't love them. But when you give them
That's
good stuff, you gotta love them. So, and I know you love Livingstone.
I
It's
do.
been
I
great for you. It's been great for me, and we just hope these alumni get together, like you said, come up with think tank so we can make the college great like it was when you first stepped on that campus.
Oh, yes. I look forward to that. I look forward to it being that. And I want it to be around for my other grandchildren too. So,
That's right. Because you
we
said
want,
17, right? 17 in your immediate family?
yeah, this is my grandson is my 18th.
Oh, 18. Yeah.
18th.
Okay.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Hmm.
So, yeah. So I just wish that everyone would have a wonderful life. There are a lot of Livingstonians who are doing very, very well. And I want them to consider giving back to the college.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you,
Mhm.
Ms. Kennard. It's been a great show. This will conclude our game, but I want to give you this.
Great. That's so sweet. Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome, Ms. Kennard.